I mean, we just looked at some numbers, and an average welder is making 50 to 60,000. Some make 100, depending on if they get into a specialty part of their service. And you look at students coming out and getting themselves placed into the job market, they're not making that much. And they have all of this debt. The vocations now are paying more and more and more. Guess why? There's fewer and fewer people in the last couple of decades who have gone to a vocational school.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the newsroom. I am Neil Winterig, joined today by Dr. Greg Winterig, CEO and author. So welcome. Now, we have done a couple of videos in the past talking about college. It's a hot topic right now, especially with student loan debt coming up to close to $2 trillion.
Yep.
And so I saw an article yesterday that was on LinkedIn News. It made me think about it. It was on theatlantic.com. And it was talking about how it was once believed that college graduates earn twice as much as people who didn't have a degree.
Yeah, so then that's a no-brainer. You just go to college.
You go to college, you earn twice as much money with your degree, and everything's
And if you have to borrow money, no big deal.
No big deal.
Because it'll be worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as the costs of college have gone up and the entrepreneurial spirit has kicked in more and more, we're actually finding that entrepreneurs are really sidestepping these landmines that have been in place. And so we were doing a little bit of research after I read this article, and I found some interesting information here. So at one point it was believed, yes, you would make twice as much as a college graduate. Nowadays, you might make less and you might make a smidge more than your average tradesman, but a trade school costs $33,000 for a 2-year education. A bachelor's degree will cost anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000 per year, leaving you around $130,000 to $150,000, maybe $200,000 in debt. And when you come out, you've lost an extra 2 years of working versus the trade.
Or more.
Or more, depending on where you're going, what you're doing. And you're actually going to be making maybe less money comparatively to what the trades workers are doing these days.
Right, so you really need to do your research before you just randomly, rotely, automatically, like, I'm going to college.
I was actually shocked when I read that 2/3 of high school students enter college, and then I think it was that 45% don't even finish.
Right. So they go to college, they accumulate debt, they're like, this isn't for me, and then bail out. So I think you need to think for yourself on this one, do your own research, and really figure out what direction it is that you want to go. I was at a hotel up in Gainesville. We were going to do some racing up there, some rallycross. And very nice gal was checking me in, and we were striking up a conversation. She's going to the University of Florida there. And I'm like, what's your major? And she goes, well, I think I've got it figured out after 6 years. 6 years of college, and she didn't have her major figured out. And I'm like, parents don't do that.
Well, I think people go to college because
kids don't do that.
You're told that these professors are smart and they know what they're doing. And that might be true for some professors and for some specialties. But I'm sorry, I would have a hard time listening to somebody teach me about business or teach me about marketing who's been sitting behind a desk.
Right. So what you really need to do is take a good look at a vocation and how does that vocation do? I mean, we just looked at some numbers, and an average welder is making 50 to 60,000. Some make 100, depending on if they get into a specialty part of their service. Electricians can make 50 to 75,000. And you look at students coming out and getting themselves placed into the job market, they're not making that much. And they have all of this debt. I mean, if we just use dentistry for an example, I mean, I graduated in 1981 with $43,000 of debt. I didn't talk to a student in 2019 with less than $500,000 worth of debt. Now, the average dentist, according to studies, makes $154,000 a year. If you take every dollar that you make, it takes you 3 years plus to pay it back. So I'm talking to students that are pretty panicked. Like, they're gonna be carrying this debt for 20 and 30 years. So you have to really take a look at the profession that you want to get into. I mean, dental hygiene, if we just look at dentistry, dental hygienists are making anywhere from $35 to $50 an hour.
And
That's
there's a lack of them.
and there's a lack of them.
There's a huge demand.
And you can get that in 2 years. So now it is time to start comparing vocational pay versus college graduate pay.
Yeah.
And the vocations now are paying more and more and more. Guess why? There's fewer and fewer people in the last couple of decades who have gone to a vocational school.
And I think also more and more business owners need to stop worrying about the education.
Yes.
And focusing more on the personality of the person.
Yep.
And just understanding that you're going to have to train them to work for you no matter what education
No matter
you
what.
had. I mean, if you hire somebody who used to work for your competitor down the street and you think, oh, this person's going to come in and fix my business for me, they're going to do it all wrong because they have bad habits from working in this industry all over the place. You're going to end up retraining them anyway. We need to get rid of this idea that these educations are the number one priority here.
So as a small business owner, what I would do is I would go to local job fairs that the high school puts on or some community group puts on, and I would be there, and if I had like a air conditioning company, I'd be talking to youngsters. I'd be talking to people who are just out of high school and say, hey, I can give you a career, come on board, you don't need a college degree, I'll teach you everything you need to know, and then you'll make this much money here, this much money there.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the point of this video is you got to think for yourself. You really do have to have it figured out. It's not like, well, I'm going to go to college in the first 2 years, I'll figure it out, because you could end up being like that person that I met who was there for 6 years and still didn't have it figured out.
That's how people get lost in the woods.
Yep. And that's how they get lost in debt.
Yeah. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing. I'm just going to go take a walk around.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're falling down a cliff. And it's so anyway.
And you'll be right like Wile E. Coyote. You
Yeah.
splatter at the bottom of the canyon in a little cloud
But just
of dust.
think of that. 1.9 trillion in student debt, and then 45% of the people don't even finish school.
Right.
I mean, there's almost $1 trillion of student debt of people who never even finished their education.
Right.
It's disgusting.
Yep.
It's a business, and you've bought into that.
Yep.
Now, college is great if you have a plan. I'm
Yep.
going to be a brain surgeon. You know what? That's 20 years and millions of dollars that if that's what you want to invest, go for it. Somebody needs to. But if you're like, well, maybe I'll go to doctor school and I'll figure this out. You're going to come out with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and no career and nothing to fall back on. So you need to decide for yourself. And we are going to actually be doing some filming right now from his book. And the first chapter is a video on purpose and what your purpose is and how you can find it. And so if you're watching this video as a student trying to figure out, do I go? What do I do? Watch this next video and you'll be started back onto the right path.
Absolutely.
So that's our follow-up. We wanted to talk about that. I just thought of some interesting facts and figures. And if you like the video, give us a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe to the channel. We will see you next time.